The end of Israel Adesanya's career just keeps getting sadder. I know we're at the end of Izzy's career, but goddamn was that sad. You know, I thought this was a fight Izzy could very well lose and signal the end to his career, but goddamn, I did not think he was going to get put out like that. We always saw Izzy as this elusive high-level striker who really only got rocked by one of the greatest power strikers of all time. So to see Izzy get crushed by a contender in Nasruddin Imavov was really sad to see. Look, I've never been the biggest Izzy fan, and I've criticized him a lot through his career. Trust me, I've even been labeled an Izzy hater, but damn, even coming from me, this was really sad to see and was stunning at how fast it happened. It's crazy how at one moment you're seen as unstoppable, dominant, and the face of the UFC, to another moment being embarrassed about a dog thing and then getting upsetted in a huge way, to another moment crying in a press conference and getting choked out, to finally getting crushed by a contender. The sport is ruthless, and the drop-off in someone's career can be so quick and drastic. For example, Volkanovski for most of 2023 was arguably seen as the pound-for-pound best in his prime, smashing everyone at 145 and going toe-to-toe with the guy at 155. Then one head kick, one punch, and only 4 months later, we're questioning if Volk can even beat Diego Lopez, and I think many of us wouldn't be too mad if Volk hangs it up for good. And I didn't want to mention it, but Tony Ferguson went from a monster 12-fight win streak and honestly looking like a true threat to Khabib Nurmagomedov to devastatingly losing again and 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 again. So for Israel Adesanya, with a third loss in a row and especially a KO at that, it unfortunately looks like he's going down the same path. So in today's video, let's explore the sad drop-off to Israel Adesanya. Let's see why he's fallen off the way he has, and most importantly, what his next potential moves are after this fight. Okay, so I've explained Israel Adesanya's rise and transition to boring champion here, and many times before, so let's just go back about 2 years ago. It's April 2023, and the first test of whether Izzy was washed comes in the form of another rematch with his nemesis, this time Izzy the contender and Alex the champion. The odds were really close, fans were split on who would win, and a loss here could truly signal the end for Israel Adesanya. I remember a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, me included, thought that Izzy was already washed at this point and that Alex was going to end him for good. And shit, this sequence right here was starting to prove a lot of us right as Alex backed up Izzy, started to land shots, and a giant knee. And then out of nowhere, Izzy literally bounces off the cage, hits Alex on the temple, gives him another one to the dome before dropping a cold emote over Alex's unconscious body. It was an insane outcome that not many of us expected, especially considering Alex was the guy with the power, and it was Izzy we were watching out for in terms of getting knocked out. Whether you're an Alex fan or an Izzy fan, you can't deny how beautiful that ending was for Izzy. He finally got over his rival who beat him 3 times before this and did so in devastating fashion. He also delivered a really heartfelt speech about wanting people to feel the feeling he was feeling right then and there, once in their life. And as cringe as he has been in the past, this was a genuine moment that won him back a lot of fans. And with Alex announcing that he was permanently going to move up to 205, I thought like many that Izzy was going to be on the path of greatness and do what not many greats do, which is have another dominant title run. And staying on the topic of middleweight, UFC 312 is already here. This time we're in Sydney, Australia, with the rematch between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland for the middleweight belt. And I'm extremely excited to see this rematch, considering the first fight was super close, and I'm really interested to see what adjustments Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland make in this rematch. And of course, what's really exciting is that DraftKings is offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after just betting $5. And of course, if sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry. DraftKings is the one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy, where you can join in on all the fun and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code TJlovesFights and bet just $5 on any wager to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code TJlovesFights only at DraftKings Sportsbook. And not to kick a man that's already down, but that moment was short-lived as this resurfaced and spread like wildfire in the MMA community. And to make matters worse, Sean Strickland of all people would be Izzy's next opponent and come in with unlimited ammo with that information and not only embarrass Izzy in the press conference, but actually did the seemingly impossible and embarrass Izzy in the actual fight, dropping him in the first and beating him down like a dog, pun intended, pretty much every round after that. That was one of the most embarrassing losses I think I've ever seen, considering all of the shit talk and, the stuff surrounding Izzy in the build-up, the odds going into the fight, and the expectations of Izzy supposedly making Sean easy work. And again, I hate putting salt on the wound, but a couple days later, Izzy would plead guilty to a DUI. And man, I really wish I could say this is where it ends for Izzy, but this is only the beginning. Back when Izzy was on top of the world, I also forgot to mention that he was feeling himself, maybe a little too much here, as an obviously drunk Adesanya would crash another middleweight upset, as DDP would bulldoze his way to a win against Robert Whittaker, putting him up for title contention. And in that post-fight interview, he would bring up his dislike of DDP, calling him not from Africa and not a true African champion, and say a couple words I can't really say. And man, would these words really haunt him when he finally got his chance to get the belt back by fighting Dricus du Plessis. Dricus, of course, would bring back this real African beef and go into Izzy's background, really striking a chord when he mentions Israel Adesanya's servants. And you can really see in Izzy's face and hear it in his voice when this chord is struck, as he goes off saying Dricus doesn't know his story. His parents had to wake up really early to go to work, and then does the unthinkable and actually starts crying and then throws a temper tantrum. Man, another embarrassing showing from Izzy in a press conference, and the fight wouldn't end in his favor either. Izzy was doing really good in the beginning. I will give him that. He was striking really well, going to Dricus' body, and looked really quick, confident, and slightly more offensive than his usual self. But of course, DDP's goofy plot armor would hold up, as Dricus, in the goofiest way you can rock someone, would almost literally like half jog and throw a hammer on Izzy's head, drop him, and then he would chase him, rock him again, and then drag him to the ground and get the finish. After all the beef, the shit talk, and the tears, Dricus du Plessis would come out on top and leave Izzy on the floor. And man, if it couldn't get any sadder. Izzy, after 11 title fights in a row and 6 years later, was put on a fight night card against rising 5th ranked contender Nasruddin Imavov. And honestly, the announcement of the fight itself shocked me. This was Israel Adesanya on a not major, not numbered UFC card against not the biggest middleweight name in the world. It just didn't feel right. Adesanya wasn't just fighting in title fights in his prime, he was the headliner to all of those fights, and cards were practically built around him. So for him to be fighting Nasruddin Imavov on a random Saudi card felt really insane, but maybe that was a signal for the true end to Israel Adesanya. Izzy did okay in that first round, defending takedowns well, and looked like normal Izzy, probably banking that first round in, but in a reverse Alex Jamal Hill situation, Izzy didn't take time for the accidental eye poke and got rocked hard by an Imavov right hand, similar to the right he took by Sean, but this time Izzy did not survive and got TKO'd. And again, I've said this a bunch during this video, but I don't know, this one felt like really sad. I'm far from an Izzy fan, but for him to go from 5 title defenses and a roller coaster of a career on top to a historically embarrassing upset to crying and then getting choked out, then to getting knocked out on a fight night by Imavov is brutal, man. And I really think it's just because his style got figured out and it doesn't work anymore. Izzy is really at his best when he lulls opponents to play his game, to stay at the end of his kicks, punches, and strikes in general, and to allow him to point fight his way to a decision. Sure, it's boring, but it's effective and was a winning strategy for a really long time. During Izzy's prime, guys just couldn't figure it out, and really wasn't until Sean that people realized you just have to walk him down. Put him in boxing range where he can't kick and punch at distance, keep the pressure, and either rock him and take him down or rock him and finish him. I don't want to downplay how good of a striker Izzy was and downplay his strategy to be at the top, but it simply just got figured out by the next generation of fighters. So of course the next question is, what should Israel Adesanya do next? I know he was saying he wanted to fight Hamzat, but I think that would look like one of those videos where you put a rat inside a snake enclosure. And then going down the list of contenders that Izzy hasn't beat in the past, we have Kyle Berhalio, who I think would murder this version of Izzy. So you know what would be a really good fight in my opinion? MVP. Look, I know they're boys, but I think this would be a really fun fight and good send-off for Izzy. MVP just beat Shera on the same card at 185 and looked good. And after this, I think MVP should be ranked as a middleweight, and having 2 older strikers go at it would be really fun. I also think Izzy would have a solid performance against MVP and would be a better retirement for Izzy, because if he retires after that Imavov fight, I just feel like that would be such a sad send-off for him. But whatever Izzy does, whether it be retire or fight somebody else, I wanted to end on a good note and talk about the legacy he leaves behind in the UFC. Firstly, he brought a lot of fans to the sport. Whether you like him or not, he has a gigantic name, and at one point in 2022, he was probably the face of the UFC, and he was easily the biggest name amongst casuals at that time. Secondly, he brought Alex fucking Pereira into the organization, and in my opinion, was the second half of the greatest rivalry in UFC history and probably one of the greatest rivalries in combat sports history. So yeah, even though he's going out sad, I still think his legacy will be seen as pretty damn important to the sport, and whether you like him or not, he's probably one of the most impactful UFC fighters in recent memory. So yeah, what do you guys think about Israel Adesanya? Is he truly done for? I think that's pretty much a yes, but what is he going to do next? Is he going to retire? Is he going to fight somebody else? I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Izzy's sad downfall in the comments below. And again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.